At the Board of Education, we have been on a real journey as we've developed our equity, diversity and justice strategy. Following the murder of George Floyd in May 2020, members of the Board of Education did a lot of thinking about what we were doing to promote and celebrate diversity, but also what we were doing to address racism and prejudice. We had to face some uncomfortable truths, that although we were doing pockets of work, various pieces of work, we hadn't been doing the work systematically, and we hadn't been doing it strategically. And in some ways, even with the best of intentions, we were paying lip service to the work. We recognised that we needed to do better. And it was really important for us all to be honest about where we were and what we were doing. So over the last 2 years, we've been doing a lot of reading, a lot of research. We've read articles, we've read books, we've watched TV programs and podcasts just to increase our knowledge and understanding of these very complex issues. We've worked hard to work and to plan and to learn. And in January 2020, or rather 2022, we launched our equity, diversity and justice strategy. And over the last 2 years, we've also been running workshops and training with our head teachers and their teams to better equip them to really get to grips with this work so that they can make real, long-lasting change that makes a difference not to children's lives, but also to children's futures. I have to say, and Lisa will agree, the team has been on a massive learning curve. And we've recognised the difference between tokenism, scratching the surface, and really doing the job properly. Having said that, this work has really energised us, and it's brought us even closer as a team. Now we're going to show you a film, a short film, that really highlights why we think this work is so important.
I know you're asking today, how long will it take? Somebody's asking, how long will prejudice blind the visions of men? I come to say to you this afternoon, however difficult the moment, yes, sir, however frustrating the hour, it will not be long, because truth crushed earth will rise again. Yes, sir. How long? Not long. Yes, sir. Because no lie can live forever. Yes, sir. How long? Not long. How long? Because you shall reap what you sow. Yes, sir. How long? Not long. How long? Truth forever on the scaffold, wrong forever on the throne. Yes, that scaffold sways the future. Yes. Behind the dim unknown standeth God within the shadow, keeping watch above his own. How long? Not long. Because the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. Yes, how long? Not long. Not long. Because mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. Yes, he's trampling out the village where the grapes of wrath are stored. Yes, sir. He's loosed the fateful lightning of his terrible swift sword. Yes, his truth is marching on. Yes, sir. He has sounded forth the trumpet that shall never call retreat. He is sifting out the hearts of men before his judgment seat. Oh, be swift, my soul, to answer him. Be jubilant, my feet. Our God is marching on. Glory, hallelujah. Glory, hallelujah. Glory, hallelujah. Glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on.
a moment to breathe. I hope that film has had some kind of an impact on you. So you've got 1 minute to kind of share that impact with the person next to you. Or just breathe and think for yourself. Okay, sorry folks, I can only give you a minute. So in 1965, Martin Luther King said, "Not long, my friends, not long." And when I was watching the film Selma, if you've not seen the film Selma, which is about the march in Montgomery, that was when I heard that speech. Heard it before, but that was when I heard it. And ping, light bulb moment. How long is not long? And it's already been however many years. And so then I had the moment of, like Liz said, we're doing lots of research and finding out all sorts of things, and I had the moment of working out about the Mangrove 9 in 1970, and then obviously George Floyd in 2020. 50 years and more. How long is not long? It's already been too long. And surely we don't want to be having a conversation with the young people in our care, or we don't want them to be having this kind of conversation in 50 years' time. The time is now, and we've got to do something about it. Just a quick timeline of going through. When you start looking at how long is not long, on there are my ages, so don't tell anybody. And as it goes through, and you just think, yeah, and it goes on. It doesn't stop there. There's incident after incident. And then this list is all the legislation and around race and ethnicity. 1948, 2010. What difference has it made? It's still going on and on and on. When Susie was speaking about that road in Bolivia this morning, I thought about this road and that road almost like through the different events on that previous slide. A road that people of BME heritage have had to negotiate for a very long time. This quote, "Don't just paint the leaves, but shake up the soil and replant the tree," was said by a guy, it says there, Paul Miller, Professor Paul Miller. We've been on various courses, and he's one of my heroes now. I think he's one of your heroes now, Liz, as well. Yeah. And other folk in the Board of Education have been on his courses as well. And it was when he said this, I thought, yeah, that's what I've been doing. I've not been doing a bad job in the sense of, diversity, multicultural stuff, encouraging people to use different resources and so on, and getting people to think about this, and, but actually, I've just been painting the leaves. There's been a lot of surface level stuff that's been done. And really, we need to shake up the soil and replant the tree. Because all of this that's been happening is deeply embedded, this systemic racism that's deeply embedded. And there's stuff that goes on that we haven't got a clue about. And the more you read and the more you find out about what's going on in people's lives and that journey that folk from BAME backgrounds have to negotiate is just horrifying. And why? Well, there's no negotiation really, because Jesus is our role model. Jesus said, "Come, follow me." So as it said in the video, we do because Jesus did. Jesus did it, so we do it. No negotiating. But then when you start thinking about, well, what, when we say, oh, Jesus is our role model, and, he said, "Come, follow me," do we just promote being nice and kind and sharing and helpful and loving as being enough? And we can be in danger of doing that. And this is the sort of thing that I've been saying to schools, that they have their Christian values all over the walls in schools. I'm sure that folk, you've seen that. But is it just, let's all be nice to each other and it's going to be okay. But to me, that's just like putting the icing on the cake or the silver balls on the top. What we've got to do is sort out the eggs and the flour and the stuff that really gets mixed into the cake that can't be taken out once it's in there, that really changes and transforms things. So we've got to think about justice not as being just a nice idea about helping and sharing and make it nice and fair for everybody. Justice is much more powerful than that. Justice is a God idea. It's not a liberal idea. It's not a political idea. It's a God idea. And what does God ask us to do? Well, the Lord requires of us to act justly, to love mercy, and walk humbly with him. And I decided to look up, I love looking up words. What do they actually mean? So what does the word require actually mean? Because this is one of them world famous, it's on a tea towel kind of biblical quotes. And we know it, and it runs off your tongue. But what does the word require actually mean? It means it's necessary. It means it's compulsory. So it's not just if you fancy doing it on a Tuesday or maybe a Thursday and sometimes on a Sunday. It's like absolutely compulsory every single day that we act justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with God. So therefore, if Jesus is our role model, that's what we're in the business of doing. We do because Jesus did. We've got to speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, ensure justice for those who are being crushed. The Church of England have a national vision for education. The Board of Education have a vision for education. And these two quotes underpin those two visions. Again, this morning, as Susie was speaking, she was talking about chains. Racism is a chain. Prejudice is a chain. Being the victim of stereotyping is a chain. Injustice is a chain that binds up people's lives. Jesus said he wanted everyone to have life and life in all its fullness. So that's what we're in the business of making sure happens. At the wedding of Harry and Meghan, Reverend Michael Curry was speaking, and he talked about racism. And he talked about racism as being a pernicious disease that's in our society. When a disease invades our society, all the scientists go mad, as we're seeing with the pandemic and coronavirus, in finding a vaccination, in finding the cure for it, in finding how they can get rid of it. If racism is a pernicious disease, we've got to sort out getting rid of it in the same way as we would. Lucy asked the question, or showed us the question that she'd been asking children, why the world might be uncomfortable with change. And I wrote down some of those things that were on the word cloud. Racism was on the word cloud. Difference, scared, opinions, fear, ignorance, dominance. I can't read my writing. Habit, confused, anxiety. It's hard. Why might the world be uncomfortable with change? Because of all those things that were on that word cloud. That word cloud. But actually, those of you who were in Bishop Phillips' workshop, we had the story of David and Goliath, and we talked about having courage and standing up against the giant and being witnesses for the gospel. We are in a kairos moment as far as equity, diversity, and justice is concerned. Jesus is our role model. We do because Jesus did. We have no choice, non-negotiable. We have got to fight against this disease that has invaded and embedded itself into the very fabric of our society. Again, picking up a quote that I was listening. You can tell I was listening really carefully this morning. That Susie said from Isaiah 40. Fill in the valleys, level off the hills, smooth out the rocks. So if we're doing that, along with all the other things that need sorting out, and we've heard lots of things today that could be put in with fill in the valleys, level off the hills, smooth out the rocks. And unless we've got equity, unless we've got justice, unless we celebrate the diversity that's in our world that God created, then it's not going to fill the valleys and level off the roads and so on. So we do because Jesus did. That's it. Simple. Liz is now going to share some of her story.
I think about 10 minutes ago, I said how much doing this work had invigorated and energized our team. And I think Lisa characterizes that passion and that energy and that drive. We've heard a little bit about the Board of Education story, and Lisa's shared part of her journey. And I thought it might be helpful just for me to share a little bit of my story. The part that's hidden, the part that strangers don't see. When I meet people for the first time, what they usually see is a black woman. But this is my family. These are the important women in my family. We've got my lovely great Auntie Flo, photo taken when she was 21. She was a designer in a prestigious fashion house in Manchester. And on the far side, my beautiful grandmother, Lucy, who stayed at home to look after the children. And in the middle, my beautiful mum. They are part of my family. I'm mixed race. My father was black. He grew up in Ghana, and he came over to England to study at Cambridge University, and he met my mum. This photo is of my great-grandfather, William Jackson. It was taken in 1914 at the beginning of World War I. The next photograph, he was really very community orientated and was secretary of the Buff Lodge in his local areas. And he, as I say, he was very, very keen. And for those of you who don't know what the Buffs are, if you think about working man's masons, they do good works and community works. So this was him in the Buffs. And you can see him, very handsome-looking man, William Jackson. And the final photograph I'm going to show you is he founded what became known as the Lancashire Walking Club. And this is a photograph taken of them as they were starting the Manchester to Blackpool walk. I'm sharing those pictures with you because that is part of my unseen story. And in our churches and in our schools, we need to make time to listen to the stories of our children and their families. Not only so that we can understand what makes us different, but also that we can acknowledge what we have in common and our shared experiences. We're going to show you a video clip now of the very famous Ugandan writer, Chimamanda Adichie. She talks about her own story and her own history, but she also talks about the danger of the single story. Okay, I think you probably wanted to hear more. So what I suggest is that you Google her. She says the single story creates stereotypes, and the problem with stereotypes is not that they are untrue, but that they are incomplete. They make one story become the only story. 1 minute on your tables, your response to what you heard from Chimamanda. Okay, I'm going to bring you back. I just want, it might be useful to share that clip with colleagues, peers back at church, because I think it's a really powerful clip. I want to just share something with you. I was running a training session last week and I came across this extract from a book, Flourishing Together, A Christian Vision for Students, Educators and Schools. It's by Linny Swanner and Andy Wolfe. But I thought it linked beautifully to understanding and knowing our children's stories. Stories are dynamic. They have a beginning, a middle, and an end. A past, present, and future. They are unpredictable, even when a teacher thinks they have taught someone just like this before, or worse still, an elder sibling. Stories need to be learned in our own language and listened to well. Like learning a new language, listening to different stories will take time, but will be paid back many times over in good times and in crises, simply because quality relationships stand at the heart of great teaching and pastoral care. When a student's story is unknown, devalued, misrepresented, or oversimplified, the challenging pastoral or academic situation will often be made much worse. If the relationship is secure because we walk together, we can be confident that whatever challenges presents itself today, we still have the relational foundation we need to flourish together.
Okay, so what do we need to do? We need to educate ourselves. Liz said at the very beginning, that's what we've been doing in the Board of Education. If the man from Amazon knew what was in all the parcels that he'd been delivering to me over the last couple of years, he would just be amazed. There's all sorts of books on here, selection on there. On your table, you've got a book list where we've recommended a variety of books that you could use with children in church and a variety of books for you to read for yourselves. God is not a white man. God is God. And over time, and when you read books like Black and British by David Olusoga, you kind of understand or start to understand and put the pieces in the jigsaw of what colonization is or was and the effects of it, and how that is still embedded in our society and what we need to do to get rid of it. You understand how and why God got whitewashed and why we need to get rid of that image as well, and so on. The Small Axe films are amazing, and there's loads of other things as well. I've never watched so much Panorama. I've watched loads of films. Liz rings me up. She says, this is on, watch it now. Then we send messages around everybody at the Board of Education. And so there really is a lot of stuff you can use and start having those conversations. My dad asked me a question that he'd been reading about the decolonization of the school curriculum in his newspaper. So he asked me a question about that. The poor man got a lecture and a copy of Black and British for him to read. But we've got to have those conversations. And once you have those conversations, and being brave enough to have those conversations. So when my hairdresser said to me about, well, all lives matter, she got a lecture as well. Actually, and off we went. And I told her endless stories that I've now read and heard about and learnt. And she's like, oh, right, okay. So now I understand why Black Lives Matter and everybody's protesting and so on. So educating ourselves, being brave enough to have difficult conversations. Me, we have unintentionally hidden messages in lots of the resources and language and pictures and things that we've used over the years. And so you have to start asking yourself questions, big questions like this. And on your table, there's a set of questions that we haven't got time to unpack now. This is a huge topic, but hopefully what we've done is given you a taster and set your thoughts in process. And we present to you those questions that are on the table along with the book list to sort of help to start those conversations happening amongst yourselves, amongst your PCCs, amongst your children's ministry groups, and so on. Thinking about how do you portray Christianity as a starting point? Does the Christianity that you teach in your church have a global dimension to it? Does it have a global dimension to it? Does Jesus look like this? Or this? And it's a real challenge to us about what resources we do use with our children. And are we really giving them an understanding of how Christians, we say we're going to say the Lord's Prayer and Christians around the world are going to say this. But do our children really understand that there are Christians all around the world and they are celebrating in various different ways according to their cultures? And when we give them an image of Jesus, do we give them these different images, a wealth of all different images? As an example of what I call dangerous books now, I've got one here. We actually, Sarah and I saw this book advertised, got very excited. Then we ordered it. It's all about, Christianity around the world. It's called A Taste of Asia. From yurts to yaks, cities to chopsticks, from trains to traffic jams. There are so many things about Asia. Through Bible readings, activities and prayers, this book helps families engage with and pray for God's plan for the whole world to know Jesus. Yes, let's order that book. It's amazing. It's awful. When you read this book through the lens of equity, diversity and justice, it's quite scary. But we could have easily, and both of us said, we could have easily just thought, oh, that's really good, flicked through it, read various bits and pieces of it, thought, yeah, that's really good, and started recommending it. But because of this journey, it's now got a sticker on that says danger. So that then I can wave it around. And sorry to whoever wrote it, but I'm sorry. I'm not sorry at all. This was another book that I recommended to all the schools, and I said in a head teachers meeting, I said, who's got this book? And they went, yeah, I've got this book. I said, why have you got this book? And they said, because you told us to buy it. I said, yeah, I did. I told everyone to buy this book because it was marvelous. Because it's full of everyone a child should know, full of Christian people. But guess what? They're all white. And they all go places to convert the native people of that country. Apart from Rosa Parks. She's in there, everyone. So the book is brilliant. And I would still recommend the book. There's loads of people in there that you've never heard of that have done incredible things, incredible inspirational things for God, who have transformed people's lives around the world and made a massive difference. But we've got to sort of balance it out a bit and really think about who we're introducing our children to. Betsy Stockton. Who's heard of her? There you go. Neither had I. She was a missionary in Hawaii. She was an American and she went to Hawaii as a missionary. Some folk on here. Think about who we are introducing our children to. A variety of people. Because the world is full of variety. And so we want them to see all these different people and be inspired by all these different people. So we were just sat the other day thinking about who should we put up on the board. We keep changing people around as I discover new ones, or Liz brings in, or Sarah or Ben or somebody comes, have you seen this person? Have you heard about this person? And we share different stories. People the children know, not just the people who've died, and not just the people who've fought the fight. Because sometimes all we do is talk about Martin Luther King and Nelson Mandela, and they're all people who've had a massive struggle, which they have. But there's lots of other folk who've done lots of other incredible things as well. We need to think about our resources that we're using in church. And Krish Kandaya has written 2 books recently. They're on here. And he writes in the front, in the introduction to this book, that when he was a boy, he had no idea that anybody in the Bible looked like him. He's mixed race, he's Sri Lankan and Indian, and he read the Bible and believed everyone to be white. And he was quite grown up before he realized that there were people in the Bible that looked like him. So he wrote this book specially for those children. And he's written another book as well, for children with all sorts of different special needs to read about characters in the Bible who are just like them. We've thrown lots of things at you. It's 3 minutes to 4:30, so we've not done badly of going high speed through different things. What are you going to do when you get back to church? Who else needs to know what we've just shared with you this afternoon? Hopefully you will chew over things and think about things now. You can come and talk to any of us in the Board of Education team, and increasing your own knowledge and understanding is absolutely crucial. But as it said at the very beginning in the film, and I said several times in my opening bit, Jesus is our role model. We do because Jesus did. No negotiation. The time is now. We're in a kairos moment. We do not want the children stood here when they're my age saying, when I was this happened, when I was this happened, when I was this. How long is not long? How long is not long is now. We've got to do it. Jesus said so. And that's it.